So let's take a look at the operational side of the ScatterBOX as it turns on. We're going to add power to the XLR input. We see it go through a quick self-test. Now we'll run you through what's happening here. Right now it's still booting up. So now we're fully booted up, and the LED at the top is camera. That means that the camera output is active. The next one is accessory. That means that all of the accessory ports are currently on. If any of the accessory ports are shorted out or have a problem, that LED will turn off. The next one says battery OK. That means that the external battery connected to the battery plate is OK. In this case, we don't have one. We don't have that on there, so that is off. The XLR OK LED is lit because that's where our power is currently coming from. So from this you can tell we've got one source of power. So the next one that says fault and swap ready, that one is obviously a multi-purpose LED. It can indicate a fault where it'll either be a solid red or a blinking red. And the next function that it has is swap ready, and that's variations of blue intensity. So when the system believes that it's capable of doing a hot swap, that light will turn blue, and it will get brighter and brighter as the confidence of the ability to swap increases. The last LED down here over to the right is called the system LED. That's an RGB. It uses multiple colors to indicate the voltage of the system. The point of this LED is that from far away you can see the color of it. And as the system gets below 14.5 volts, it starts changing colors until it gets to 12 volts where it'll be red. So it goes through kind of the rainbow of colors, the last one being kind of yellow, orange, red, so that you can see from far away that your battery is on its way down, and you can change it, because of course you can't see the LCD from more than a foot or two away. It's too small. So that brings us to the LCD screen, where it's broken up into three major sections. We have volts, amps, and watts. That can be here. We have these two little graphs here. The little one is for voltage. The bigger one is indicating the load graphically, so you can have a kind of a sense of just how loaded your whole camera system is. This one is very important. It indicates the current source of power. In this case, we only have the XLR plugged in, so it says source EXT. EXT is for external. And the other possibility is that it can say BAT for battery. That's an onboard battery. So let's take a look at what happens when we add a battery. You see that the battery OK LED just turned on, and the swap ready LED turned on. So the system has calculated that it's safe to do a hot swap. Keep in mind that this is kind of an algorithmic guess about whether or not the hot swap is capable. It's assuming that the battery that you put on there is capable of powering your camera, but it doesn't really know that for sure. So it is up to you to test this ahead of time and understand that the ScatterBOX is making an intelligent guess, but it is in fact a guess at the end of the day. So you have to be careful with hot swap. If you're using batteries that you've never used before, you're not quite sure if that battery can handle the load that you've currently got on the system. So the next thing we'll take a look at is cycling through amps, watts, and back to volts again. And this is kind of handy to see. Well, you know, volts tells you the voltage of the system, obviously, but it doesn't give you any indication of how much power is coming out of it. Amps and wattage give you kind of a sense of how much the thing is loaded. Watts are an indication of power, and amps are an indication of the current flowing through the system. And that can give you some intuition about how long your batteries may last. If you see something there that says 10 amps and you have a little Dionic battery on there, you can kind of rest assured that that Dionic is not going to last very long with that kind of load. It's 100 and whatever watts it's going to be, 120, 30 watts. A Dionic will not last very long. So that's kind of handy there. So the next thing is the hot swap. Right now we see the source is external, and we're going to disconnect the external battery, or simulate that, and we see that the source just switched over to battery, and everything keeps running. Nobody ever noticed a difference. So this is kind of the equivalent of disconnecting a block battery, and we'll say we just plug the block battery back in. It switches back over to your external block battery, and nothing ever happened to the camera. Nobody knows, the picture's still there and all that kind of thing. So another thing is that it knows the difference between a battery being disconnected and, let's go to voltage. The ScatterBOX knows the difference between a battery cable just being disconnected and the battery slowly running down. So if I simulate the external battery slowly running down, at this point the ScatterBOX has already decided, oh, it's a battery, because the voltage is slowly decreasing. And when I get to the cutoff voltage, and the default is 12.2 volts, which is about 12 volts at the camera, maybe a little bit less, 11.9 or so, what you'll see is it'll switch over. It switched over to the battery, and it started flashing the fault LED. And that is an indication that your block battery is dead, and that it has switched over to the backup battery that's on the camera. And you can see this from pretty far away, so you know to come flying in with a block battery and plug that in. And when that happens, you disconnect the dead battery. That LED will stop flashing. Plug in the fresh battery, and on. There we go. And we're all back to good. And there you have it. So there's the kind of overview of the side of the ScatterBOX there, the operational side of the ScatterBOX.